another great example. Bruce Springsteen inducted Roy Orbison, and although Bruce was, a big name in rock and roll at the time and probably brought some presence to Roy's induction, he's like, with all due respect to Bruce, he's like the anti-Roy Orbison, who Bruce himself referred to as the voice. Bruce does not have the mellifluous, great voice that Roy Orbison. You would have thought somebody with a better singing. Hell, Michael Jackson could have inducted him for all that matters. But it was
because Bruce is like born in the USA. I was born in the USA, and that's just not Roy. So
no, and he writes great songs, Bruce Springsteen. So I give him credit; he belongs in there. But whether he was the correct choice, they one good choice. Paul McCartney did induct John Lennon, which I thought was a good one. They put their he put his differences aside with Yoko. She asked Paul to do it, and he gave a great probably one of the greatest induction speeches. He wrote like an open letter to John. Even though it was like 12 years after John had passed, but it was a very touching way that he handled the induction ceremony, and it was all about John, not about Paul, and not about the Beatles. It was about John as a solo artist.
Oh yeah,
but, you make a good point about the Everly Brothers with Neil Young. Neil, did country stuff, and of course he didn't have the best voice either. But he wrote great songs, and he probably could have been a big fan. I don't know that Neil was a big fan of the Everlys. I would have thought more rocking choices or even country choices. He would have been into like Johnny Cash or Willie Nelson or somebody like that. But nonetheless, that is an interesting thing. I had forgotten that is what occurred. But yeah, they've had some bizarre choices there.
Oh, and then you get Herb Alpert inducting Sam Cooke.
And
now that's a real good one.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a connection because of A&M Records or because of the fact that, both Herb Alpert and Sam Cooke were out in L.A. Maybe, Herb at the time, I don't think he owned A&M Records or had started A&M Records yet. But I think at the time he might have been doing some production work or engineering work or something and somehow knew him. I don't know. I've read biographies of Sam Cooke, and I never saw that connection. One would have thought that, like, I don't know if I'm sure you're acquainted with Bobby Womack, who wrote some songs, and then he did get inducted eventually, too. He ended up marrying Sam Cooke's widow, there was no like bitterness between Sam Cooke's family and Bobby Womack. You would have thought Bobby Womack would have inducted him, but who knows?
Yeah,
maybe because he wasn't as well known as Herb Alpert. Herb Alpert was a record recording industry legend at the point that he did it.
Oh so. Yeah. And then now an example of a great choice to induct is Billy Joel inducted Fats Domino. Both piano players, both, they do similar things in terms of the piano.
Great showman, both of them.
Yeah, great showman, yep, absolutely.
And Billy Joel, a lot of his songs, like you said, were piano related, and that was probably a good choice. And of course, maybe the Rock Hall tries to get people who are like somewhat well known. Who would we have known that inducted the Go-Go's? Drew Barrymore was somebody that everybody knew, and she kind of gave a unique presentation when she did it. Tom Hanks, I don't know why, of all people, the Dave Clark Five picked him to induct them. That's a little-known secret. I don't know why. Most people, if you ask them who inducted the Dave Clark Five, they look at you with a blank stare. I don't know why Tom Hanks was chosen, except that he was a big fan of the group, and he thought that their induction was long overdue, which I agree with, but that's another story.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We'll get to them down the road when we get to their induction year.